right, hello everyone. So this is something that I haven't done before, but I'm really excited to do this interview with this special guest that I've asked to come on for my very first interview. I'm going to try and do for my channel. This person happens to be, I think, a really great person to do my first interview with for two reasons. One, because of his collection, and I'll let him talk a little bit about that here in a minute, obviously, about what he's collected and the things that he's accumulated over the years and how long he's been doing it. But the second reason is because he is a local Arkansan, just like myself. I happened to meet him just by chance at a local card show, and just got to know him through Instagram. And when we were talking about doing a potential meetup for a deal, turns out that he and I are actually, practically neighbors. We kind of live just down the street from each other here in the Little Rock area of Arkansas. So without further ado, I will introduce you guys to my special guest for today. He goes by the Instagram handle at sign 1933 Gowdy. And I'll let him just sort of talk about himself and his introduction into the hobby and his collection. Thanks for joining us.
Oh yeah, Kurt, happy to always talk about the 33 Gowdy, especially with a neighbor. And it's a small world, really a small world, and the collecting universe is even smaller. So it was nice to put a name with a face, and then it was kind of eerie when we met for our first deal. It was just down the street, and then we realized we're neighbors. So that's cool. So that's kind of a tough question about my collection. I've collected my whole life. I'm in my mid 40s now, and so a kid of the 80s. I collected cards growing up and had a big collection. And like most people, when I hit college, I stopped collecting and took a few years off, and then got back into the hobby probably around 2008, and have really tried to narrow my focus over the last few years, and did a really good job at that. So as my Instagram handle would suggest, I collect signed 1933 Gowdies. That project has been 12, 13 years, 14 years process of trying to build the most complete signed 33 Gowdy set that I can. And I have now what I believe is the most complete signed 33 Gowdy known to exist. I have 217 of the 239 cards in the set autographed, and I'm constantly upgrading, constantly trying to find nicer examples. There's certain collectors that I'm trying to get the original collections of. So that's my main thing, and that's the reason I started Instagram was really to kind of share my collection. And I've got a book coming out hopefully later this fall on the 33 Gowdy set. And so that's why I started the Instagram account over a year and a half ago. So it's been a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, 217. Wow. How long would you say, if you could try and pinpoint the time frame it took you to accumulate all those?
Oh, it's 13, 14 years I've been at it. And for over 10 years, I was like laser focused on them. I mean, you're talking about looking for them on eBay multiple times a day. I was on a couple private message boards where you have to have paid memberships. I'm generally try to be a private person. And so I built kind of a network of people all across the country that were helping me find these. You, of course, get to know the other collectors. There were 3 or 4 of us that were pretty seriously collecting the set. The other 3 were on the East Coast, and so I kind of tried to focus on the Chicago area, the Midwest, and the West Coast to pin other collection down, because the East Coast was pretty competitive for a while. But really, it's just like with any project, I used to run a lot more than I do today, but like the marathon mentality is if you want to do something, just stick at it long enough and keep chipping away, and you'll get there eventually. So when I started almost 15 years ago, I never imagined that I would have gotten to where I'm at now. It's um, uh, you know, it's been lessons in patience and persistence, and I think really people rooting you on, other collectors rooting you on. I think I try to be a decent person and help people out as much as I can, and that really has helped me out. So I mean, the hobby is uh, a great community, and if you show your true colors, people will show you their true colors in time, and I've been blessed with a lot of really good friendships and people that have helped me out. So
Wow.
try to
Yeah.
do the same. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, when you doing this 15 years ago, I mean, yeah, the only thing out there at the time probably was eBay, and very few other things that you could go to find these cards, doing research on these types of cards, I'm sure. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of networking had to be done in order to procure those back in that day, right?
Well, I mean, kind of, sort of. Really, sportscollectors.net is the message board that I was really active on in 2008, 9, 10, 11. The last few years, I still pay my membership, but I don't get on nearly as much. And that community was pretty amazing. And I've mentioned him in other podcasts that I've done, but Jason May was on the message board with me around the same time. And he uh, is an attorney in Oklahoma, and he built the most complete signed 33 Gaudi set. And he was, probably a year or two ahead of me, and he had a little more money than I did at the time. So the really cool thing about what Jason did was, he really built a good network and acquired a ton of cards, and he was started flipping me his extra cards. And when I was doing it, I didn't have a ton of money, and I just was hoping to get 20 cards, 30 cards, 40 cards, and then eventually realized that, hey, I could get 100, and then I got 100, and then I was like, it'd be cool to get 150. And then Jason sold off his collection in 2018 at REA auction, and I was able to get some really tough ones. And then in January of this year, the collector that had the most complete signed set auctioned his off, and I'd known him for many years too. And he had some kids that were getting older, and and I think could use the money for their education, so he auctioned his off, and I was able, again, just to stay focused on the really rare cards. And then of course, when Uncle Jimmy passed away a couple years ago too, that gave us an opportunity to get some additional really tough cards. So again, it's just timing and persistence, and it has paid off for me.
I saw on your Instagram recently you've been posting a lot of your Uncle Jimmy ones that you've received recently. So that's pretty great that you got to get your hands on some of those Uncle Jimmy cards, because those are still considered probably the best examples of a lot of those signed 33 Gaudis that are out there in the world, probably, right?
Yeah, for sure. And for those of you that haven't heard Uncle Jimmy was a 97-year-old World War II veteran that lived in New Jersey. His story really resonated with me. He never got married, never had kids. He lived in the same house for decades. He never had a car. He worked at a factory for 40 years. And when he retired, he went to work as a janitor at a local school, and he literally walked to the school. And when he passed away, his family discovered in his upstairs space a world-class collection. Uncle Jimmy had 175 different signed 33 Gaudis, but he had 50 additional cards to extra cards. And so the news flash was the Babe Ruth. There's obviously 4 Babe Ruth cards in the collection or in the set. He had 6 Babe Ruth cards signed, and they were pristine condition. So all of those cards sold for well over 6 figures, but I could really have cared less about the Babe Ruths, because there's actually quite a few Babe Ruths floating around, and I don't really, I'm not targeting Babe Ruth right now. I'm more interested in the rare guys, Val Penich, Heine Sand. I mean, there was a lot of cards that he had that were the only known examples, or ones of twos. So, I was just more stoked to target the rare ones, and it worked out for me. And over the last few years, I've been slowly adding Uncle Jimmy cards when I can, and the secret's out. I want to rebuild his collection. I own over 50 of his cards now, so I have a
Wow.
large chunk of those, and they're beautiful, and I'm proud to own those. And the community has just been really kind to me. I get texts and emails, certainly on a weekly basis, from people that have them and are willing to let them go once they realize what I've done. So, yeah, I've been really lucky, and we'll keep chipping away at it. Although secretly, I'm really burnt out on 33 Gaudis. I'm over it. I'm over it, sort of. So I think the book will be kind of like the cherry on the ice cream. And next year I kind of plan to go to lots of card shows around the country and show the cards off and sell the book. But I've moved on. I mean, my collecting interests have moved on. Like you, I'm kind of into basketball. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of the evolution right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, the 33 guys that you have are still obviously incredible, but yeah, I'm glad that you're venturing into the basketball card world. Always makes me personally excited. I've been a basketball card geek, I would say, for about 30 years or so of my life. Yeah, like you, I collected when I was a kid in the 90s. Got out of it when I went to college, and then got back into it probably around 2012, and been kind of doing it on and off, but really got heavily back into it these past few years. And for a while, it was just whatever I could find that was interesting in terms of basketball stuff, and just got so immersed into the history of the cards, the great sets of the early days in the 50s and 60s, and then all the great ones that I don't think I really knew too much about when I was a kid. But there, even back in the 80s and 90s, there were some incredible things that were coming out that really changed the card industry as a whole. From serial numbered cards like in Flair showcase sets, and on card, some of the first on card autos and the skybox autographics, things like that really piqued my interest when I came back into the hobby, and just really fueled that fire to really seek out those really true rare gems. And then when I saw what you were doing, I will admit that it did give me inspiration to put my focus now into collecting vintage basketball on-card autos, in particular what I consider the best basketball set that's ever existed, which is the 1961 Fleer basketball set, and trying to go back and finding as many on-card autos from every single one of those players in that set. Thankfully, the Fleer basketball 61 set is nowhere near as big as the 33 Gaudi. It's only 66 total cards, and 22 of those are just in action shot cards, and then the other 44 are regular, base set cards, or whatever you want to call them. So only 44 actual total players in the entire set. So it's a little bit easier, but also at the same time, there obviously, since you're talking about way back in 1961, there are still quite a few of them that are very, very low pop. And obviously you have like the Will Chamberlain rookie card, and Will Chamberlain passed away in 1999, and he didn't really sign very many of those before he passed. And so the odds of me ever getting my hands on a Will Chamberlain 61 Fleer autograph are probably very, very rare, very low to say the least. But
I'll give you hope, because I watch a lot of your shows that you put up. Pop reports aren't accurate by any stretch of the imagination. You have the PSA pop reports really they just have in them the PSA particular red flips. And right. So even the Beckett's, I mean, the 61 cards they've always been popular. Those players signed a ton of those cards. There's a lot of them that were slabbed in the SGC slabs, the old green SGC slabs, the red SGC slabs. The autograph collecting in the 60s was a thing. It was it was a thing. It really kind of wasn't, signing cards in the 30s wasn't. So just because the PSA Pop report says there's just one or two or three, there's more than that out there.
Oh yeah.
And so you'll get there if you play the long game.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, yeah, that's been one of the things that I've really started learning over these past couple months of really kind of getting into this. And because this is really like a totally different type of collectible
yeah,
than just your standard card collecting. And like you like if you get just a regular, base rookie or even like a rare insert or anything like that, like like especially if it's graded and you can go on and really find somewhat accurate pop counts and somewhat accurate information on market value of those cards. When you're talking about trying to figure out market value and actual pop counts for those vintage autograph cards, it really takes a lot more of a deep dive and a lot more research to really figure out how many are actually out there and why some of them just haven't signed as many as others, and obviously like in the 61 Fleer said, there are a couple that did pass away like quite a long time ago, like Phil Jordan, who had only a Pop One PSA for the longest time, and then randomly one other one popped up here just recently at that Mile High card auction that I did a video about, and then I think I told you about as well. And it's like the second one that's ever existed. But I was like, I would never expected to see one again or just pop up like that in the market that quickly when I started this, So that was crazy. And yeah, you're right. You just never know when more will pop up because yeah, it is kind of frustrating to get into this and realize, yeah, PSA kind of does this really weird thing with their pop counts with these cards when it comes to the red labels versus the blue labels. And then even if you get a red label, and you don't pay the double service and get the card and the autograph both authenticated, then it doesn't count in their pop reports. And so you're right, the pops for a lot of these things can be really just
wrong.
very inaccurate, yes,
Yeah,
to say the least.
yeah. But I mean, again, it's just learning. And again, when I started this, I mean, I've got over 70% now of my 33 Gaudi set is in the set registry. I'm obviously number one in the set registry. I have a ton of cards that I need to cross over, and I have a ton that I know where they came from. They're not slabbed. I posted a few of those on Instagram. So I think the goal for me in winding this down, I have 90% of the set autographs. So I'm going to cross everything over this year and have it all in PSA red flips, and really take a break from it. I got bored with it for a long time because the cards that I needed they weren't changing hands. I mean, I know the people who have the cards that I need, and the search for me was I'm always looking for upgrades. But now I don't really only have probably 4 or 5 cards, 6 cards maybe that I really need to upgrade. So I'm at the point where I would go many months. Last year I went many months without acquiring any new 33 Gaudis. This year's been weird. I mean, this has been a record year for me. I mean, I've upgraded, and I think I've probably gotten 30 upgrades and added probably 10 new cards to my set this year alone. But last year, or about 2 years ago, I was kind of bored and wanted to collect something, so I put together a PSA 8 86 Fleer set, the whole set, and then I put together a PSA 8 87 Fleer basketball set, which was much more difficult, obviously, than the 86 set. And so I've got those squirreled away in a safe. And then I got bored again about a year ago and said, I'm going to put together a PSA 7 86 Fleer set. I'm 8 away from completing my second 87 or 86 Fleer set. So I'm working on 2 other basketball sets now. I'm not ready to publicly reveal what I'm doing, but I'm working on 2 more modern basketball sets too, and I'll probably get those done. One of them probably this year, and the other one will probably be next year. But again, it's just having fun. I look at it as kind of an investment. I'm a big believer in being a lifelong learner. So I don't watch a lot of sports. I don't watch a lot of basketball. I don't watch a lot of baseball. And so, it's kind of interesting for me to read about players, even, modern players. Uh, yeah, I'm working on a more modern set. I'll leave it at that. I'm surprised at how many players that I don't really know. And so, I'm learning about their careers and where they went to college, and not really watching their game, but I'm more of a reader. I don't really have time to, I don't make the time to just watch live sporting events. So, but I do go to games. I'm got a trip to New Orleans in October, and I'll go see the Pelicans play. But um, it's just fun for me, and so I'm always collecting something. So,
Yeah.
you know,
No, and yeah, I mean, just there's just always been something about the history of basketball that's always really captivated me, going all the way back to when I was a kid. And my dad would teach me about like the Pete Maraviches and Kevin McHale's and Larry Birds and the guys that I never really got a chance to watch when I was a kid, but just getting just really interested in just the entire history of the sport. And so yeah, card collecting has always been kind of that connection to basketball history for me. And it really gets amplified when you're talking about something that one of those players probably actually held in their possession and actually signed, obviously. And it's funny too, because yeah, I think for the longest time, the collecting world kind of didn't even really like seeing on card autos on some of these vintage cards. I think a lot of that mindset has changed over the years. And I think that's a good thing. But yeah, I just think when you think about how it's not only a love of collecting the card itself and the love of the hobby itself, but it gives you that personal connection with the history of that sport and that with that player. So all those things combined really just got me heavily interested in it in these past few months. Yeah.
yeah, you're absolutely right with that. The As far as I know, I think I'm the fourth or fifth person ever to get over 200 signed 33 Gaudis. Uncle Jimmy didn't get there, but two of I know the last three guys that did it. I know them well. I've talked with all of them. Sean Brennan is a guy from Illinois who was doing this in the 80s. He actually sold his collection to Jason May, but he told me stories. When he was a kid, he would go to card shows, and he was acquiring these signed 33 Gaudis for next to nothing, $5, $10 a card or less, because they were signed and people frowned on it. He had a story of and I just talked to him a few days ago. We were messaging about something, and he got he got a card signed in person, and I can't remember who it was. It was a notable player, and when he asked him to sign that card, the player like looked at the card and said, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure you want me to sign this card?" And of course, they signed it for them. But you're right. I mean, it was frowned upon. People were so focused on condition, and so it's truly a marvel, especially the cards from the 30s that I have. That the players died in the late 30s, early 40s,
Yeah.
the 50s. I mean, the fact that these cards survive, it's pretty amazing. So.
No, it is. And honestly, a lot of those pieces just they look like they belong in a museum,
Oh
just
yeah.
the way they've been preserved and the way they're still, yeah, kept that history alive. Yeah, they're almost like museum pieces, honestly.
Yeah, and I've shared. I mean, I think the end goal for me is I've made some really good connections in the hobby, and I know the other collectors that have the cards that I need. I think we can put together a pretty close to complete signed 33 Gaudi set. And the end game for me is in 2033. We want to put our collections together and loan it to the Hall of Fame and let the Hall of Fame display the collection the summer of 2033 to pay homage to the first bubblegum card set, and then I want to auction it off. I don't material objects don't mean a ton to me. I'm more about the chase and the hunt, and This was a passion. I loved it. And, but, I've got two daughters. I don't think either one of them are going to really care about cards. And that's another reason I'm doing the book is I'm including photographs of the majority of my cards. And so I want them to be able to have that in the future and say, oh, Dad did this. But, as far as the cards go, I'm kind of sick of them, and I'm starting to say that more. And it's the set is a beautiful set. I mean, it's one of the big three. Obviously, it's the first bubblegum set. The history of the Goudy Gum Company is just phenomenal. I mean, the history of the company, the photographers that took the pictures of those cards is amazing. So, I think my book will be just a little contribution to the hobby, and will be the only way that I ever get in the Hall of Fame. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So you think you're going to be going to like the Dallas Card Show, the National Card Show, and those in the future with your book in hand, of course, and things like that?
Yeah, I will. For sure. I've got friends all over the country, and I've never went to the national. And it's funny. I was with a buddy of mine Friday, and I've finally come to terms that I collect cards. I mean, for years, I didn't want to admit that. I've said that I collected autographs, and it was just, it was just something that I didn't share with a lot of people, and
I hear you. Yeah.
yeah, but I've amassed this collection, and it's not just 33. I have the first set that I completed was 1991. In 1991, Topps reissued the 53 archive set, which was a reprint of the 53 Topps set. And when that came out in 91, I was all over it, and I was writing to players. And so I actually have every person that was alive in 1991. It's over 200 of those players signed cards from that set. I think I have maybe two complete signed sets from the 53 reprint set, and it's a beautiful set. I mean, the 53 Topps is the Mickey Mantle, the Hank Aaron, the Willie Mays. I mean, those cards are phenomenal, and so I have that tucked away in a safe, and then the 33 Goudy set is in a safe deposit box. And so that to get over 90% of those signed, I think there's a path for me to get 10 to 15 more in the future. I'm in my mid 40s, so I'm playing the long game. So we'll get there. So,
and go back to your comment about how you didn't really tell people about you collecting cards, and I agree with that sentiment, because it feels like so much has changed in card collecting these past like 5 years or so. Like it feels like it's still not that long ago, just 5 to 10 years ago, where you didn't really, at least for me personally, and you sound like you're in the same boat, I didn't really tell very many people that I collected cards.
Yeah.
But with all the social media content, YouTube content, all the stuff that's being put out there now about the value of some of these this day and age, and just about the how fun it is to chase them, and the rarity and things like that. It's a lot more of a, I guess, I've had this feeling of being a lot more open about it now than I ever did.
Yeah, for sure. The pandemic changed everything. I mean, I think people, well, first of all, especially people in our age group, I mean, we grew up collecting cards. And so now we're in our 40s, some of us are in our early 50s, and we've got more disposable income. And I think the pandemic really changed the game. And you saw that in prices, even the 33 Goudy prices that I have. I mean, the cards that I was acquiring for $40, $50 10 years ago are selling for $250, $300, $400. So, the prices have certainly gone up. I've embraced it. I mean, I've seen you at card shows. I've actually set up at 4 or 5 card shows this year. And I've had a blast doing it. I mean, it's brought back memories. I was in Hot Springs last weekend for baseball weekend and set up a table down there. And there were so many kids that just reminded me of myself when I was that age. And, they're out there hustling and, trying to flip cards and you I'm just trying to help them out, buying stuff from them or trading them stuff, and trying to give them good deals. So it's been fun, and I've met a lot of really cool people, and it's been fun. So I'm looking forward to next year and having the book, and continuing to do this for a while, and then upgrading my collection. I've moved on to different things. I'll show you this. I picked this up last week. I know you're a basketball fan. Have you seen this?
Oh,
This Michael Jordan card,
yeah,
the 86 Spanish sticker card. So
yes.
yeah, picked that up. Thought it was kind of cool,
Mhm.
so but yeah, it's fun. It's in my life, and I'm going to continue to do it. And it's an investment. It's fun,
Yeah,
and occupies time. So
yeah. Well, and I once again, I feel you when it comes to like your collection always sort of ever evolving every few years ago. That's kind of the way it's been for me. And now I'm on kind of on this new path, and I think I've shown you some of the other vintage autos I picked up beyond just the 61 Fleers. And just yesterday I struck a deal to get my first the star rookie card autographed, the Isaiah Thomas rookie
yeah,
autographed. And so I've always been a big lover of the star cards, and now I'm like, oh,
got the white card.
yeah, with the white border.
White
Yeah,
borders. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a cool card. Yeah.
it is. I just love those cards, and now I'm like, okay, now I'm really interested in seeing if I can find some more of those star cards autographed as well.
Yeah, it's cool that PSA is authenticating them now. I thought that was
Yeah.
good. So yeah.
Oh yeah, and yeah, all the crossovers happening over to PSA. I mean, that's another
Yeah.
thing though that's going to be really messy when it comes to like figuring out pop reports. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
how many
Yeah.
people are going to crack those BGS cases and send them PSA now? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And again, that's just another challenge, but it's fun, and being a lifelong learner, and another reason I love the 33 Gaudy cards is, I'm an Arkansan. My family's been here since the 1850s, and all these guys played here. That's another thing. So just the signatures of the players are just beautiful. You had Eddie Collins and Mickey Cochran, but Dizzy Dean, Arkansan,
Oh
Hall
yeah.
of Famer right down the street. This is one of my favorite cards. And then always try to show love to Lon Warnicki, another amazing pitcher. He started the first All-Star game. So he was the catcher or it was the umpire in Willie Mays, the catch game too. He went on. Travis Jackson, another Hall of Famer from Arkansas. Willis Hudlin, I've shared this story before, but Willis Hudlin worked at Sports Stop right down the street from us in the 90s, and I rode my bike and met him. He was a super nice guy and a heck of a pitcher for the Cleveland Indians. So and then I talk about Dib Williams in the book. His father really brought baseball to Central Arkansas. He was from Mayflower. His dad, I think, moved here from Illinois, and it was a fantastic coach. He set up some leagues for kids around the Mayflower area, and dozens of his players made it to the majors, including all three of his sons played pro ball, and two of them made it to the majors. So again, the history of the set, the ties to Arkansas, I mean, it really kind of drew me in. And so, it's just like, I've got the 91 archive set signed, that's in the safe and put up. The 33 Gaudy sets in a safe, put up. The 86 Fleer PSA 8s in a safe and put up. The 87 set is in a set. I'm probably going to throw the 86 PSA 7 set in the safe too, and just have that. And then I'm working on two other sets, more modern basketball stuff, and then those will go in. But it's just fun. It's cool to see what you can put together. And again, it allowed us to meet, so it's good
Yeah.
to meet a neighbor. And I've enjoyed your shows, and happy that you had me on.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, I think that's a good stopping point for this interview. And thank you so much for showing some of those Gaudi cards. And yeah, is Instagram still the best way to follow you, contact you, and all those things?
Yeah. I mean, people reach out on Instagram almost every day. I mean, literally, and I enjoy it. I try to respond back super quickly. So if you see this and you're out in the somewhere around the country, you see a sign 33 Gaudy, reach out, give me a follow at sign 1933 Gaudy. Even if you don't know anything about 33 Gaudis and you kind of sort of like baseball, I think you'll enjoy enjoy learning about the cards and then seeing them, because it is really awesome to see them.
Mhm.
And then I kind of sprinkle in some basketball too. So if you're following Kurt because he's a basketball guy, I throw in some basketball cards in there every once in a while too. So again, it's all fun and games. And so if you see me at a show, say hi. I'm willing to talk and chat about baseball ad nauseum. Got to get it out of my system because my wife is certainly sick of hearing about it. So
And my wife's the same way. She doesn't want to hear me talk about basketball too
yeah,
much. Yep. So yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Thank you once again for coming on. It is a real pleasure having you on. Once again, it's my first guest ever, and really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.
Take care.